Hello, in today's video I'm going to be going back to the Paleolithic to make one of these, a prehistoric shell lantern. Stick around. The first example I ever saw of these prehistoric shell lanterns was at a place called Kents Cavern in Devon. I was very young on a school trip, and during the tour there's this really good bit where the tour guide turns off all the lights in the cave and then lights one of these shell lanterns. It was a very cool atmospheric moment, and it really made you understand what it must have been like in this prehistoric era, way before any sort of electricity or anything that we take for granted. The fact that having light in the darkness is something that we don't really think how much that matters to us, but for a prehistoric person living in a cave, this was a hugely significant technological advancement. And today we're going to try and make one. There's three main elements of what we're going to make. Number one is the shell. Here is a shell that I found actually several years ago outside Teignmouth down in Devon, so relatively close to Kents Cavern. The next piece of the lantern will be this, some remains of some old lichen, a bit of old man's beard that I found blown off a tree, not picked anything fresh. This is just windfall stuff that I found. And the third element is something that I've not gathered myself, unless you count going to a supermarket. It's some duck fat as well, so we're going to use some fat to go in with the lantern. And just as a little fourth special ingredient, a secret ingredient if you will, only because I gathered so much of it last week, a little bit of that fat wood as well, which I'm going to shave off a small element of this and add it to the top of the lamp. I don't know if that was ever used in the Kents Cavern examples, but this is going to be a modern twist on our Stone Age classic lantern. Now the first step we're going to do today making this lantern is melt down some of this fat, make it more liquid, so we can pour it straight into the shell onto the lichen and the moss that we've gathered. This isn't, of course, a step that a prehistoric person would have had to do. They would have collected the fat as they were cooking meat, whether it would have been bear, mammoth, who knows, whatever they were cooking. But today we've got some duck fat because, of course, Tesco's are out of stock of mammoth fat. So first off, what I've got here is a little rudimentary double boiler, which is something that I've rigged up. So as you can see, I've rigged up a quite rudimentary double boiler. What I've got is this old Dutch Army cook set over a Trangia triangle. I put this tin on top of an old bolt just to keep it off the bottom. Small layer of water. I'm going to fill this with the fat and that liquefying there, and then I can use this pot grip to pick it up and pour it into the shell. Now obviously, as I've said already, this isn't something a prehistoric person would have had to do. This is a little modern twist of how we're going to try and liquefy this fat so we can pour it into our shell with the lichen as well and make our little lantern. Now as you can see, here's the duck fat. It's already started to liquefy just because it is quite a warm day while I've had it with me. So we're going to get a nice healthy spoonful of this duck juice. I'm going to put it into there. This should not take too long to liquefy at all. It's basically already there. To be honest, I could probably pour this straight into the mould, but I've lit the fire now, so we'll give it a go. There you see it boiling up nicely now. That fat liquefying so quickly. Now as that liquefies, let's get our shell lantern ready. There's the shell. It's a mix of moss. There is a bit of old man's beard in there somewhere. Other various bits of lichen, sphagnum moss as well, all nicely dried out. Picked this a few days back. Stuff that in. I don't know whether I want it too stuffed in or whether I want to leave a bit of space for a bit of air in there, but we'll work it out together. So there's that ready. I'm going to say that fat is melted enough, so try and get somewhere steady for this. So I don't want to, there we go, if I put that there, last thing I want is it falling over with loads of hot fat everywhere. Now grab my pot grips. It's going to be a bit of a delicate operation. There we go. Pour that in nicely. Ooh, there we go, almost overflowing. So we'll leave that one to cool down. I've got another shell, so I'm going to make one up and make another one up as well. There we go. Beautiful. We've liquidized the fat, and now here are my two little shell lanterns. Let's have a little closer look at them. There we go, glistening. I've put them up on this log here, hoping a little bit of cool wind that's coming across the breeze is going to try and solidify some of that fat again. There we go. Almost looks like something you'd get in a fancy restaurant, but if you try to eat it, you'd definitely return it. So you can see all the fat in that one there. Lovely. What I'm going to do now is add some of the fat wood on top of them as well. Here's a piece of that fat wood from last week. What we're going to do, I'm going to shave off some of this, if the wind doesn't take it all. There we go. I'll do for now. And add that to the tops of these. That way, hopefully, it'll add a bit of extra heat and combustion to these prehistoric lanterns. Now it might just be enough with the fat and the lichen that we've got on there. I should imagine it's already quite a high octane mix, if I'm honest. But I've got quite a lot of this at home, so let's add to it. I've assembled my prehistoric lantern. Now it is time to test it, and where better than this cave. It's humbling to think that our ancestors were able to enter these dark subterranean vaults without any of the modern technology that we take for granted today. Now all that I have to contend with in this cave are some fearsome looking spiders and several thousand woodlice. But back then there would have been cave bears and other creatures hiding in the darkness. No wonder they felt the need to develop such a sophisticated piece of technology like the shell lantern. Now I'll get my prehistoric fire lighting equipment. Obviously an ancient human would not have had matches like I'm using. That's the fat wood going up. That goes up nice and quickly. This could have been lit, of course, using an ember from an already established fire. There we go. Put that old match on there as well. Sorry that it's not authentically historical, but look how much light that is already throwing off. As that fat wood burns off, it will start drawing the fat through the lichen as well. It's almost all of the elements of a candle put together in a different way other than using wax like we would use with a modern candle. We can hear it hissing as well. Oh, it smells great as well. It smells a lot like barbecue. There we have it, the prehistoric shell lantern. As you can see, it's burning along nicely, nice little steady flame, which is exactly what you want from a light source. It's very easy to take for granted the modern world that we live in, where you can make the dark go away with the touch of a switch, but in these ancient prehistoric times, to even be able to make light like this was an incredible technological advancement. Going to Kents Cavern when I was a child was one of my favourite school trips, and it still holds as one of my favourite places that I've ever been. So if you ever get a chance to go to Kents Cavern, I definitely advise it. All too often, our ancient ancestors are kind of written off as prehistoric and savage and a bit backward, but just think of the amount of lateral thinking that went into developing this. Someone saw the fat dripping off the meat of a kill that they were cooking over a fire and realised maybe as that fat landed in the embers that it hissed and would make the fire grow a little bit lighter. And then at some point they decided to put that in a shell with some moss and cover that with the fat, and they were able to develop this. We've got a lot of great inventions in our own time, but I think this is a very good ancient invention that really does deserve to be remembered. You can see as well, this was one of the first steps of humanity being able to tame the darkness and bring some light into the world. Thank you for watching. Please keep watching the videos. If you fancy subscribing, please do, but I'll never pressure you. Enjoy your weekends and get in the great outdoors as much as you can. Thank you for watching. Before I go, I'm going to leave this place tidier than I found it. Here's a bag of, I guess, IKEA tea lights. So we're going to get rid of all these as well, take these back and chuck them in my recycling. So yeah, if you ever go in a cave though, don't light a fire like this, because one day that is going to bring all this down. And then we won't get to enjoy wonderful places like this.